Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening, and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore. Welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Stephanie D. McKenzie, Chief Sozo Officer and Lead Coach at the Healing Firm. Stephanie is a certified life, relationship, bereavement, sleep science, meditation, integrative nutrition health coach. Steph is the Chief Sozo Officer and Lead Coach at the Healing Firm, as well as the lead coach for its sister company, the Relationship Firm. And an award-winning marketer with more than 3 decades of business experience, Steph has been featured on local media such as KHOU and Fox 26, as well as national and international media outlets including blacklifecoaches.net, Buzzle.com, Brides.com, eHarmony, and just to name a few. Steph loves to seize any opportunity to help others achieve their best level in living a whole life, finding or keeping love, and building a legacy that stands for generations to come. In addition to her work at the Healing Firm, Steph is the Communications Director for the Relationship Firm, Chief Education Officer for 2215 Inc., and Chief Visionary and Trainer for Best Level Success, which assists new and aspiring coaches and business owners in achieving profitability and sustainability in the marketplace. Steph also holds certifications in meditation, mindfulness, reflexology, and flexibility, and is a TRX qualified suspension training instructor in addition to graduate degrees in business management and Christian leadership. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Stephanie McKenzie. Hey, Steph.
Hello, Kimberly. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I have no complaints. It's been a great day.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't see how you can't be tired, okay? With all the things that I just read, I'm like,
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I mean, I might be a smidgen tired, just a scooch, but still good. Still a good day. Still a good day.
Yeah. I guess it's always, like they said, it's always better to be here than not, so it's always a good day.
There's that. Definitely. Definitely.
So welcome to the platform. And, why don't you just take a couple minutes and tell the listeners just a little bit more about who you are beyond what I've already read.
Oh, goodness. It's like, where do I begin? But, I mean, ultimately, I'm finding out about myself that I'm really an advocate for transformation, and I really love to see people walking in wholeness and abundance. These are the things that I'm learning about myself. I've always loved to see people win, but now framing it from the standpoint of being whole in our lives, nothing missing, nothing broken. I truly believe that we can achieve that. I truly believe that we can live some semblance of heaven here on earth, and I'm just so excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm hearing what you're saying, and I know I'm going to have a million other questions about it because you do something that's very unique that I've never heard of, and we're going to dive into that in just a second. But I want to talk a little bit more about where are you from and how did you come to be Stephanie, the Chief Sozo Officer?
Well, interestingly enough, my mother I want to say 6 years ago, I did an interview with her, and she let me know something I had known my whole life. When I was younger, I was always the kind of the go-to person. People would come to me, oh, Stephanie, what do you think about this? And I had a phone curfew. And so I thought I was brilliant, and I would roll under my bed with the cordless. Remember when cordless was still the thing? And I was under my bed, and until we did that interview, I didn't know that she could hear me. So that's a long answer to say, I've been this coach thing my whole life. Mm-hmm. I just never considered, I'm going to become a relationship coach. I'm going to become a health coach. I was never planning to be paid for this. I was never planning for this to be a part of the plan. I was just going to be who I was. Mm-hmm. And, the marketing, I'm a marketer to my heart. I'm an educator to my core. And that was my life. Mm-hmm. So how I got here was really not by a really well laid out plan. I really thought I was doing one thing, and I ended up doing something else, and voila, here we are.
Right. And that it seems to be most of us, especially when you're kind of going to business. I mean, and, I think a lot of times we all have passions, but it's most of the time we don't really follow those passions, or like say we either, we have a different direction that we want to go, and or either we go to school and we're not, we spend all this money going to school and come out and not doing anything that we thought we were going to do. But it's funny how you at a young age tapped into being that person, like you said, that counselor, the person that everybody comes to. And I think sometimes that can be a great thing, but it also can be a curse. So how did you, I guess, figure out that, beyond being a child, what were the steps that you took to get to this point to realize, what, I have something that I can offer to people, but how did you heal yourself before you could start healing and working with others as well?
Definitely. Oh, that's so good, because the relationship firm and the healing firm have two different seeds, if you will. The relationship firm was a huge, I'd call it an accident, but really it was divine reroute. I fought a lot. I didn't win, hence why the relationship firm is going into its 10th year. The healing firm, however, was, it's new. I think we're in our second year, maybe going into our second year. And, at some point, I just became obsessed with healing. I myself suffer from cellular inflammation, and that was something that I had to learn about, and definitely I have to give kudos to the doctor that really explained and took the time to explain what that meant to my body, and really allowed me to educate myself in how to lose weight for me. Now, that's really important. But it wasn't just about losing physical weight. It was about emotional weight and spiritual weight. And so the more I got obsessed with healing, the more I got obsessed with wholeness. And then at some point I just decided, you know what? I think everybody can have this. And I'm big on credentialing. That's the educator in me. And so I was like, I want to be able to say something to someone that has meaning behind it, not because I made it up, but because I have some semblance of credentials, and I have a narrative that backs it up. Now, I'll go ahead and caveat this, Kimberly, and tell you, I don't believe, because most people will come and ask me about the weight loss. They don't always want to talk about the emotional and the spiritual and all the other dimensions of wholeness that are necessary for what I'm actually offering. So they come, and I'm like, oh, what did you do to lose weight? Okay, that doesn't matter. What do you want to do? What are you willing to do? Where are you willing to start? And so, that was a put off to a lot of people, because I wouldn't just say, well, I ate this, this, and this, and this, because I don't believe in a blueprint. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it works for you. Absolutely. Everybody has their own formula, So how I got here was just being obsessed and wanting people around me in the world, in another world, whatever, to recognize that we can be whole and healed and healthy, and that is available to us. It is indeed a divine birthright.
Right. You're absolutely right. And the thing I love that you're talking about is that you don't just do, like you said, the physical side of any type of healing. It all starts from the inside out. And I think that a lot of the coaching that you see today, because it's so easy now to just go out and get a coaching certificate and say, "Ooh, I'm a coach," that people don't really understand there's got to be something deeper in order for us to be in the positions that we're in. We all have gone through something in life. It's how have you dealt with it in order to continue to move forward and obviously continue to deal with it, because it's not something that's going to change. I don't believe overnight. I think it's a life change that will benefit you as you continue to move forward, because we all have setbacks. So when you started the relationship firm, and I'm going to kind of dive in this, as we know, tomorrow is a big day, Valentine's Day. So
I heard about that. Yeah.
yeah. It's something I don't deal with much. I'm like, that is coming tomorrow, right?
Right. For me, it's the pit stop before my birthday. So I'm kind of like, yeah, the 14th. Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. So for me, it's like, I was asked a couple days ago, where do you go to Valentine's? I said, like I normally do, nothing. So it's like, I'm going to work out, it's my normal routine on Friday night.
I love it.
But, I think that because we do have the holiday coming, it would be great, I guess, to hear some of your thought process of what it really means to be in a relationship and how could you help somebody or give them a couple of pieces of guidance on, I don't have anybody for the holidays. How am I supposed to get through this holiday? Because for some people, it is a very, very sore thumb. It's something that they cannot handle and they just want to get through it. What would you say to that person?
I mean, to the person that quote unquote doesn't have anybody, as trite as it may sound, you always have you. And, it's so funny because sometimes we forget about that. We forget about ourselves. And, you don't have to quote unquote go date yourself, but maybe there's something you've been wanting to do and you just haven't done it. Maybe the 14th can be the day that you do that. It could be something very simple. Maybe you need to go to Ross and get a new toothbrush. You know what? Take your time. Go to Ross. Make it a thing, or go to Bed Bath & Beyond or whatever store you go to get toothbrushes, whatever. CVS, whatever, but make it a fun time, and take some time, maybe doing some journaling, maybe doing some meditation, maybe have an adventure, maybe go out and group Valentine, find and figure out where the other single people are. Go hang out with them. You might not be single when you leave. It's great. It could work out.
That is true. That is true. And, it's kind of funny that you said that because I think I've noticed this year more than ever that there are a lot more singles parties, a lot more gatherings where people can feel whole versus feeling like you said they're lonely, even though at the end of the day you're really not by yourself. You do have yourself, and a lot of times we just allow that conformity of what society tells you that, hey, this is the 14th, you're supposed to do this on this day, and you got to go out and spend all the money, you got to go out and get the roses, you have to do everything in order for people to feel good, and not realizing that that's a moment. So what happens after that moment? So what happens, what do we talk about when you have those people, they're on that high, and then when it's over with, reality steps back in? What do you say then? What is your thought process on that?
It's funny that you asked me that question because I actually don't believe in Valentine's Day. I really believe that if you're putting all of this effort into one day, there's a part of me, and I say this often, and people don't like it when I say this, but I say it anyway. A relationship that you have to work doesn't work. Relationships require effort, not work. So if it's laborious, then that's a huge red flag. And if you're buying roses on the 14th, but on the 13th you were cussing each other out and slamming doors, maybe we need to spend the 14th with a professional. Maybe we need to be somewhere figuring out if this actually is viable versus, we're going to spend this day, we're going to do this, and I'm going to buy you this. And then on the 15th, we're right back to where we were.
Yeah, and I like
definitely the 14th. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can be reflective. No. I'm just thinking that maybe the 14th for some couples definitely could be a reflective day as opposed to being demonstrative. Maybe it's a time to just really reflect on where we are, where we're going, the effort that we're putting in, any changes that we need to make. Let's get real about our relationships on the 14th versus getting real ridiculous when we know that we have challenges and we need to deal with those.
I agree with that. And I think that really stuck out to me where you were just talking about is how I like the word that you use, effort instead of work, because we do have that nomenclature of saying, if you're not putting in the work, things aren't going to, work out well. Your relationship isn't going to last. And you're right. The word work is used consistently. So I like that you're explaining and saying that it really shouldn't be work. It should be about, the effort that you put in, because obviously both people need to put in the effort in order to be successful in that relationship. But, we're so used to just doing instead of, like you said, sitting back and reflecting and talking about where we at this point. And it's not just about being in that personal relationship. I think relationships overall, whether it's your friends, whether it's a work environment, because you are always in some type of relationship with people that you're surrounded by.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I definitely like the way that you're thinking and you're processing of how you handle the thought process of being in a relationship. But now let's talk a little bit more about the healing firm. Now, you said you've only been in this business, only been around for a couple of years. So talk a little bit about the firm and talk a little bit about the word Sozo and where it comes from.
Excellent. Well, when you go to seminary, you learn all these wonderful words. You learn 18 million names for God. You're just like, I thought it was God. No, he is Yahweh. And you're just like, okay, Yahweh, cool. So one of the words that you learn a lot of Latin and Greek and Hebrew, but you learn Greek words like sozo, which is translated into wholeness. And so for me, I was just like, the marketer in me never goes away. And I'm like, if I'm bringing this to bear and if I'm bringing this to market, I want there to be a system attached to it. I'm big on systems. And so I was like, I love the word sozo. I love it. I love it. It has power. I have a girlfriend. She also does some things with that word sozo. So she calls her movement Sozo Life. And so I was like, but I like sozology. Because for me, that's the study of wholeness. And like you said earlier, it's not a one and done thing. It's a process. It's ongoing. And so for me, taking that word, like I said, sozo is Greek for wholeness, and attaching that ology to it, I really want people to recognize that there is a study, there's a commitment, there's a connection that we create when we decide that we're going to be whole. That we're not going to settle anymore, but that we want to have nothing missing and nothing broken in our lives. But it's not a one and done. It's just like forgiveness. Can't forgive somebody one time. Yeah, good luck with that.
Right.
It's a process. It's a process. So we got to peel the onion. So that's what Sozo is about, for me. And Sozology is about peeling that onion.
Yeah, and I like that because you're right. Everything seems to always be deeper. I know that there are so many programs out on TV today where you have information like a 600-pound about the stories of people who are over 600 pounds and all that. And even no matter what those stories are, that at the end of the day, what I've learned, even if you're watching them and you're learning something, or if it's about hoarding, everything comes to a certain point and where it began. And then from there, obviously things get out of control. So having that understanding of what Sozo is about and understanding what salvation and wholeness is about, it makes sense now, that people, they try to fix you, but you can't be fixed until you really understand what the problem is. And that's really, Absolutely. If I'm understanding it, that's what you really do to help people realize what wholeness is really about.
Yes, at least that's the goal. And so, at first I wanted to do that one-on-one, and I do still have some one-on-one clients with some very specific programs, but that is what actually sent me off into the classes, into being able to educate people, because transformation, as humans, we don't want to do that.
Right. It's tough.
Just tell me what to eat, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to lose weight. No, baby, because I have to be like, no, baby cakes, wait a minute. I always say this, as above, so below. As within, so without. So at the end of the day, I can't deal with the weight on your body until I deal with the weight on your mind, till I deal with the weight in your relationship, till I deal with the weight that you got back in the 80s that you haven't dropped. There's a lot of weight that needs to be lost, and it's not going to be eating chicken and brown rice that's going to bring you into a state of wholeness. It may bring you into a state of less weight.
Right.
But wherever you go, you'll still be there.
Right, as I said, but it's not permanent. Normally, it's only temporary because you're not dealing with how you got there. Yeah, and that makes sense. It just doesn't. You may lose weight, and we're happy for a moment. Then, like you said, you'll turn back around, and I think that's part of the theory of why people, when they do lose weight and then they stop doing what they're doing, next thing they know, they've tripled the amount of weight back because they're not dealing with the whole process. Because the one thing that drives me crazy is when you go into your doctor's appointments and you have this doctor, all they're thinking is medically. Well, you need to do this. And not to say that everything they're saying is wrong, but to sit there and constantly tell you, well, you should be this amount of weight and, you should be here and you should be there. Well, who is that for? Is that for me or is that for you? Or is that just the standard that you think I should be? So, you're always trying to understand their philosophy, but they never want to hear what it is that you're really going through and how you got there.
Exactly. And the narrative matters in so many forms. Like I said, now I'm starting to work with people more one-on-one, more because now I recognize how I want to do that. the narrative matters. You know, if you say, I want to do this differently, well, how did we start doing it in the first place? And then when we started doing it, how did we allow it to become ritual? Because we don't use the term habit. Habits are things we usually need to break. But how did we allow this ritual to continue in our lives despite the fact that it didn't really serve us positively? So there's so many things that we need to extract, and narrative matters. I think there's a lot of assumptions around weight, addiction, anything that could be a challenge. You know, if you have a physical challenge, there's so many assumptions when the truth of the matter is that the narrative matters, which is why there can't be a one size fits all formula.
Right. I agree with that. And so, you know, being in this type of business you have, and obviously, like I said, you have the one side of the business you've had for 10 years, and then of course you have the newer portion. What challenges had you been facing off and on throughout the 10 years, or either in the beginning or even starting this new business? You know, what is people's response when you tell them I'm a Sozo? Because obviously nobody would understand what that is. So how have you handled some of the challenges you've gone through?
Well, you know, it's funny. In the beginning, you know, the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me about the challenges of the relationship firm, I didn't want to do it. That was the first challenge. I was like, no, this is not happening. I don't want this. This is me talking to God. I'm a marketer. Maybe you missed it. You thought I was. So the short story of how the relationship firm came to be was I was working with a dating site. They were a client. I thought relationship education would be a great USP. I go get certified. The project goes defunct. I'm left with people. And now I'm negotiating with, yes, you guessed it, Yahweh. And so I lost. I absolutely lost. In fact, the original name of the relationship firm was a company called What the Love, because I never thought it'd see the light of day. I was going to go through my certification. They said, pick a name for your company, grab a domain, build a website, What the Love. There you go. And so for 2 years, I actually fought this thing. I would do it kind of, sort of, maybe.
Oh, my goodness.
So then when I finally said, okay, God, you win. I'm sorry, Yahweh. You know, you win. And that's when the relationship firm came to be. And then I thought that. I was like, there's no way in the world the relationshipfirm.com is available. That is too easy. And then I went straight to the GoDaddy of it all and got my face cracked and great. And so we began to build this company. Like, oh okay. Like, what is happening here? Goodness. So that, you know, you've seen the footsteps where, you know, you're walking and then the other ones are grooves. That was me. I was being dragged along. Completely. Divine dragging is a thing. Oh, yeah. I'm a marketer. What do you mean? I'm not going to coach people. What is that? So, you know, learning how to, you know, because business was not unknown to me. I've had a business since I was 9. But this arena, coaching was a whole different arena. Learning how to set pricing, learning how to put the packages together, how to show up, you know, all of those things. Yeah, the marketer in me was good with it. But coaching is a different animal. It definitely can be a different animal. So going into, you know, practice number 2, I thought was going to look like practice number 1. And what I had to realize was that practice number 2 runs completely differently.
Wow. Okay.
Completely. And so, you know, I almost had to do a Trojan horse type of thing, because I'm talking about changing your life and doing some things differently, and humans are white knuckling like their status quo going, no. And I'm like, you know, it's like I used to say, everybody wants to be Destiny's Child. Nobody wants to run uphill in stilettos. And I don't blame them. That probably hurts. But anyway, so I had to relearn another business. I had to learn, okay, well, what do you want? How am I supposed to show up in this space? What's the message here? And so I originally started with one-on-one, and I decided, I don't want to do that like that. And so that's where the classes come in, the TRX and the Noga method, which is a stretch and meditation class that I teach, and the meditation classes that I call Namastart. And then now the one-on-one is starting to come back in, because I've aligned with gyms and organizations that have people that are primed for transformation. So that was how I had to turn things kind of on their ear versus what I do with the relationship firm, because people just come. They want to save their relationships. They're getting married. They want assistance. They want to stay together. It's a different impetus.
Yeah, it is. And it makes sense because I was wondering how the two, arrived as far as were they similar or are they separate? And I'm thinking too, I'm sure that a lot of people said in the beginning, well, how can you tell somebody what to do in a relationship? Are you married? Have you ever been? What do you know about relationships? It's funny because people only look at, like you said, the I guess the upper part of it. They're not looking all the way through. So it's just the very top level. So I thought that's very interesting of how you combine them, but yet still they're separate in their own entities.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I guess for me, the one thing I was very adamant about in this space was that I'm not an advice giver. I am a guide on the side. I'm not the sage on the stage. And so because of that, I never bring my life and hold it up as, hi, do it just like this. I ask my clients, where do they want? Because just like I feel there's no blueprint for healing and wholeness, there's no blueprint for having a marriage. There's no blueprint for I don't want to say fixing, but for rerouting a marriage or for, transitioning a marriage, because many marriages need to go from relationship to partnership if they can. And some of them need to go, well, never mind. So, I mean, at the end of the day, and some of them just need to go, but we're not going to talk about that because that was, my marriage clients, I'm at 100% success rate. So, I mean, we put in work, definitely. But, like I said, it's just, I never hold it up. I'm like, where do you want to go? You set the destination. I'll be the little GPS voice. And, I'm not necessarily telling you to turn left, but I'm looking at the route that we could take, and I offer that up to you.
Wow.
And I think that has allowed me to be fruitful in the space that I'm in.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. And you're actually challenging people to look deeper and to solve the problems versus, like we were talking earlier, just saying, okay, well, here, fix it now, and so I can move on. And like it's a much bigger picture than that, and so that's what makes you such a success. So my question that I ask everybody who is a guest on my show: if you have a person who walked up to you today and said, "Hey, I want to be in business," what advice would you give them?
I guess. What advice would I give them? I would ask them if they know why. Why do you want to be in business? And I would listen to that, because depending on what's driving them, if it's about money, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't vilify money. Money is good. We need it. We live in a capitalist society. But if that's the only reason, is it, when people jumped into real estate, I think back in the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe even mid 2000, there was this influx of people. I'm a realtor. But why? Did you want to be a realtor because, your cousin made great gobs of money, flipping houses? Or do you want to be a realtor because you want to be a part of someone's journey into their first home? You want to support them in that process. Because those are two different motivations.
Absolutely.
And if you, and unfortunately, sometimes if you're only money motivated, you're in for a rude awakening because it doesn't come quickly.
That's right. Absolutely.
It might play games with you, might play dodgeball with you, might play a little hide and seek with you. So you've got to be driven by something other than money. So if somebody, and I guess to that end, if their why was substantial and significant, then I would say, okay, in business to do what? And then we're off to the races, because what I hear from a lot of people is that I want to go into business to help people. And I'm always like, what business, what people, what is their problem? What solution do you present? Are you the first stop? Are you the last resort? There's a lot that goes into helping people. And so if they say that to me, I want them to get off of that ambiguity and drill down, who are you serving? Because you're created and what's within you to serve somebody. There's a population in dire need. You can't go out and serve everybody. Who are you meant to serve? Right. And so I would definitely advise them to tap into themselves, get motivated beyond money, and then allow the vision to speak clearly to them, because it will do that.
All right. Well, I couldn't have said that better myself. So that was excellent. Thank you so much. And wow, I can't believe how fast this time is gone. But
I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, so much great information. We could keep talking, but obviously we're coming to the show. But do you have, before we get to the last words, tell us, the listeners, how they can get a hold of you if they have any interest in learning more about your two businesses and obviously needing any help. Let us know how we can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me pretty much everywhere online, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, at the company's names. Nothing fancy, except on Twitter, we're Relationship FRM because, there are too many characters. But usually the relationship firm, I'm like, thanks, Twitter. The relationship firm or the healing firm, you can always find me. And you know what? And I tell you what, if your listeners tell me that they heard about us on your show, I'm going to have a special little discount or something for them because I just think that's necessary. So definitely, if you reach out and you're a friend of Kimberly's is a friend of mine, a listener of Kimberly is a friend of mine, and so we'll definitely be ready to support you in whatever you're trying to do. But yeah, the relationship firm and the healing firm.
All right.
Everywhere except
awesome. Twitter. Right. Yeah, Twitter can be a little hectic at times. Yeah.
Twitter's a hater. But
yes,
okay.
It is. Okay. Yes, it is. But you guys heard it right here on my show. So if you're listening and if you missed it tonight live, you can go back and listen to it on several different platforms. You can listen to iHeartRadio, Spotify. You can listen to Google, blah, blah, blah. I can't even speak tonight. Google Podcasts. Podchaser, I mean, you name it, it's out there. If you're going to the link, and if you want to go into the WSBI LLC Facebook business page, all those links are there. So there's no way you cannot miss it. Twitter, it's on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram as well. So you heard this live from Stephanie that if you listen to the show tonight, she will give you a little discount. But you have to tell her that you listen to the WSBI, Your Resource for Success podcast show. So I know it's a lot to say, but if you even just say WSBI, she may even remember that part. So, I will remember. I will. Yes. Because that's easy. So, and like I said, and if you're following us, there's no reason why you can't provide that information to Stephanie so that she can make sure that it is accurate and that you actually did listen. But I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show this evening. It has been such a pleasure. But do you have any last words for the listeners tonight?
Like I always tell people, every single solitary day, no matter what you do, make sure that whole is the goal, no matter what. Just keep that in the forefront. And even if you take baby steps are still steps.
All right. Thank you again. And you guys heard it from the amazing Stephanie D. McKenzie, who is a Chief Sozo officer and lead coach at the healing firm, as well as the lead coach for her sister company, the relationship firm. Again, we say thank you for coming on tonight. For everybody else, we're here, of course, every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. And you can listen to our main places, which is iHeartRadio and Spotify. I hope you all enjoyed this evening. But until the next time, you all have a good night.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.